Quote, I shall perchance hereafter think it meet to put on an antic disposition, or to put an antic disposition on Hamlet to his buddies, lying like Odysseus, or warning us that he's going to lie, for an act at least. Hamlet, Prince Hal, quote, I know you all and will a while uphold the unyoked humour of your idleness. So then Jason Arday, and I have looked, interviews, speeches, and it is obvious he was a charmer. That's why we were took in. The funniest and most distressing thing is the available podcasts of his critics, proud academics, one specifically who somehow weaves his church-going and scripture's condemnations of wily men into his sermon with many alike, though this PhD is obviously very important to him. Pride cometh, doesn't it? And there's the rub, the hubris in the lot of them, the professors, the ones who went to school to learn how to be learned and lauded, a suspect bunch. My only uneasiness myself with Jason Arday is the suicide, if that's what happened, leaving a wife and 2 children. Then I think I have to confess how stressed he was and the shakiness of his whole being in the beginning and the end. I don't have much truck with the academic community, you all know that, especially the professors, and looking at the environment and its aspirations, I think there must have been a lot of cheating going on every breath they took, and the all-white jury agrees, especially listening to Arday's academic detractors, their eyes gleaming and their amateurishness glaring. My experience of Oxbridge, the clawing for recognition and status, the writing and selling of books, the specialness of it all. A woman once told me she went to Radcliffe. I said, how was that? She said, it was great to be part of the creme. That's all she said. It is not all the Hitchens brothers who really have a gift of expressing themselves, but there is a very significant roster our cultures still echo who did not go beyond high school. Very significant. And I'm very unsure that teachers should have PhDs. I watched a professor break down Arday's failures in his PhD thesis, a very erudite chap who could knit a pick immaculately. But I did think of Socrates and Plato, superstars of the academy, who did not, quote, trust writing because it could not be interrogated. And he looked a little silly in that austere light. Social media is filled with tests for your IQ, ways to sharpen your brain, DNA tests to measure who you are. Such a preoccupied culture, all screaming in desperation, notice me. It seems this was Jason, and his crime is or was that he was rather good at it. He took them all in, like Bob Dylan or Lance Armstrong, Odysseus. It would be good to have a Cambridge course on the great liars, but ultimately the institution prides itself on guiding the profane culture by providing it with graduates who are wiser than the rest. That is their claim to fame. Cambridge was founded in 1209 of the Common Era, and now how have we done with these leaders since then? How is the world doing? At what great achievements can I point under this leadership? The empire? The supremacy of the church and its bloodsheds? The endless wars among the Christian factions? The Crusades? The belief that Shakespeare wasn't Shakespeare unless he went to one of the biggies is only modified by his obvious use of his gifts of gab to promote the superiority of England and her lords. An Oxbridge project, if there ever was one. The whole exercise in stone and parchment centers elitism in our sense of identity, and today it is being refreshingly challenged at last, and Arday was shuffled off because he won. He persuaded the great old lady to let him in where he was not supposed to be, and so the black trickster became the greatest of scapegoats. Cambridge and its defence is unabashedly elitist. See its creed in old Thomas Babington Macaulay. And these supremacists can't just sit down with it. They are constantly compelled to reprove their superiority. It's exhausting to watch, and at the end of the day, if there was a failure, it was theirs. There's remarkable little evidence from the students, but this might be because the cooling class has a very low opinion of students anyway in any manifestation. They protest. They don't obey their betters enough. Cambridge's contributions to the patriarchy is inestimable. It was due for a rogering. It's always fun to see the civilization try its educated best to squeeze its truth into its greatest boast that all men are created equal, except not at all, really. Oh, darling. Jesus and Muhammad were illiterate. If I think of Stratfordian Shakespeare had it bad, imagine Jesus in 1210. The streets of Socrates and Jesus are now hallowed halls. I don't know what goes on in there. I have a pure imagined world of it, the wacky professor, perhaps like some old Merlin, but there seems to be a lot of ego in it, in the church, in the university. Once again, a striving for identity. It's in the movies and the plays, the snotty professor on Oleana, Professor Higgins, etc. The monasticism of educators quite gone. Now they're sexy, wielding that intellect and tweed. These I have seen, and I wonder if my own aversion to colleges that my teachers in high school, so glorious, so enough, didn't need to negotiate the terrors of the full-grown youths whose minds were ready to say, in your opinion, to Professor Haidt, his worst nightmare. He has written at length about this confrontation, and I have seen him confronted by young women and fold like a deck chair. So I wonder on the evidence if Arday's gifts, his charm, charisma, and apparent searching that won him so much needed a violent reversal. I wish he'd stayed to fight, but he'd need to have confessed, and God, he was so outnumbered. He was taken out for being black and guilty of what would otherwise have been embarrassing in the faux world of academic honesty. And the more that black candidates for fame do have to prove, and taken out largely by a man who thought he belonged in a gym. Arday belonged in a gym or on a stage. But really also taken out by the rest, who I think were shook by his game. And I'm pretty sure their dander and the dander of the press is ladies protesting too much. We caught you doing what we all do. I know the politics of white culture, its hierarchies and mysteries, and it is not deep, but it's vicious to them that won't comply. I had a rush of waking when Congress confirmed Brett Kavanaugh, that what I thought had gone was not just still here, but back with a vengeance from the rock beneath which it had skulked for a chunk of my life, or had simply waited to strike. Brett was obviously guilty. Blasey Ford wasn't lying. The white male wrinklies said stunning things that everyone accepted and just blew by us. Well, something happened to that poor woman, but wasn't done by Brett. Or, women are unreliable, they're so emotional. And now a frat boy sits on the court. I know he's found God, so all past crimes can be reconfigured and forgiven among his community. And here I am caught because I do feel that one can commit crimes, the crimes he did commit, and recover, even become more useful to the world. That he might have said, as Plattner might have said, I am terribly sorry, I was blackout drunk, I might have done that in that state. But we obviously don't live there. And they're of a piece. The old road is rapidly changing. The narrowness of monoculture is not where humanity's going. Too much has been let out of the box, and too many young people have seen what was possible before the old inquisitors could get it back in the box. those boys and girls who so threaten the lords and ladies of the hallowed halls wherever they are, even as their overpriced allure still confounds us.